Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today I will show you how you can really easily add multiple languages to your application in React Native. And yeah, I'm basically just gonna get started to show how that can potentially be done. So the first thing we want to do is to add a package, and we only need one package, and that's gonna be React Native localize. So let's start off by adding that one, and then as soon as we're done, we can go to iOS and then do pod install. If you're on Android, I believe we're already done. We don't need to do anything else. But if we're on iOS, we need to do this additional step. When that's done, we can cd back into our app and call React Native on iOS just to recompile things. And while that's happening, I'm gonna do a little change to my code. So the code I have here is just the starter code you get when you start a new project with the React Native CLI. So yeah, let me just add a source folder here because I don't like to have my JavaScript stuff in the root with all the configuration. So move it in here, make sure we go inside index here and update that to source.app. Cool. Now the approach I'm going to use to translate this app into different languages is to have a global context provider that has the responsibility of doing this. So inside of source folder, I'm going to create a context folder, and alongside that context folder, I'm also going to make a lang folder. Here I'm going to have my JSON files for the language. Inside context, I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call it language context. And yeah, one note here, I'm using TypeScript, but the code I'm about to write is very similar. No matter if you are in TypeScript or JavaScript, doesn't matter too much. So let's jump into the language.context file. So in here is where we will define our context provider, and also at the end define a hook so we can grab that language context from any file. Alright, but first thing first, let's create our component here, and I'm gonna modify it a little bit, the default one here. So first of all, I'm going to make this into a named export. So export const language context, and then I'm going to add provider at the end here, just to emphasize that's the provider. And then I'm going to define the context, and I'm just going to call it language context. And I'm going to use the React object and then call create context, yeah, okay, cool. Now in my provider, I can go here, grab the language context, then access the provider, then pass in the value, and in here I can render out children, for example. So whatever we nest inside this component will be rendered out here. Okay, that's looking good. We haven't defined value yet, so let's just define that to an empty object for now and pass it in. Alright, perfect. So now what's the next step? So first of all, we need some files basically that represent what we're trying to translate. So for that, I'm gonna open up my drawer here, then create a new folder called lang, and inside here I'm gonna create my two files. So in my app, I want to support English, so I'm gonna make an en.json, and also I'm gonna support Chinese, and that's gonna be ch.json. And I'm going to put a translation in here. I'm just going to put one since I'm not gonna translate a whole bunch of strings, I'm just gonna show you how it works. And the string I want to translate is hello, so I'm gonna copy whatever is inside my en.json into my sh.json, and then I'm just gonna do the translation here as the key. So I'm trying to translate the word hello, and in Chinese that's gonna be ni hao, like that. Okay, save that. Now I can jump back into this file and then import my two language JSONs here. So we can do that in TypeScript with just a null import statement. So we can do import en from lang en.json, and also for my Chinese file I'm gonna import sh from, oh sorry, I pressed the debug keybind, lang sh.json. Alright, those are my two language files. So if you're doing this for the first time in TypeScript, you might get an error here, not this error but another error that complains about that complains about this type of import, since we're doing a JSON import. In order to solve that, you can go to your tsconfig, and in here you can set resolve JSON module to true. After setting this to true, you should not get that error anymore, and you should also be getting autocomplete. So if I do en dot, I can see that inside this JSON file I have a hello key. So that's working pretty sweet. Alright, next step is I'm going to define a variable in here, and that's going to be an object. Just going to call it language object, and in here I'm going to define two keys, and these two keys are going to be the language code of the different languages on the phone. And I've done some pre-work, so to speak, so I know how they look. So for English it's going to be en, pretty straightforward, and I'm going to put the value to the English JSON here. And for Chinese, if you want to use simplified Mandarin Chinese, the language code is ch hans us, okay, like this. And I'm going to show you later how you can figure this out. Okay, so this I'm going to assign that to ch, that will be my Chinese file. Okay, perfect. We let's move the store again. So we have our two languages here in my language object. Now we can jump into the component again and create our first bit of state here. So I'm going to create a state called selected language, and that's basically going to be the language we're currently using. And I'm going to set that to default en. Okay. Now, next step is we need to create a use effect, and inside this use effect we are gonna basically do the core of this provider, and it's not too much, so have a look here. So use effect, let's define that. Let's put in a function, and then in the dependency list let's just put an empty array. Alright, looking good. Now in the function body I want to, first of all, I want to grab the language of the phone. And to do that I'm gonna use the package we added in the beginning. So I'm gonna find a variable called current language, and I'm gonna go up here and import my localized package. So import everything as rn localize from React Native localize. Okay. When I got this object, I can call a method on it called find best available language. Alright, so let's zoom out a little bit. So this find best available language will try to find the best language on the phone according to the languages that we support. In our case, we support English and Chinese, so we want to pass in an array of strings with these two values. And since we have an object here, we can call object.keys on it, and in this way we get just this value en and this value. So we have that, we get that array of supported languages. Now what this function is going to do is it's going to look at the current language of the phone and then see if it can match any of these, and then it's just going to return that language code. So currently my phone is in English, so it will return en. Okay, and just a quick look here, if we hover over find best available language, we can see that it actually returns an object here with a language tag and then isRTL boolean value, and the language tag will be the one we're interested in for setting the selected language here. So we can do set selected language and then do current language dot language tag, and you can see TypeScript automatically added this question mark, and the reason is that there is a chance that find best available language might be undefined and we might not get any available language. So we're going to create a fallback here with the pipe, and the fallback is just going to be English. Okay, cool, we're pretty far, almost done actually. Now we just need to define this value down here, and the value is basically gonna be all our translations. So if I want to grab the translation of hello, I can just get that value directly, no nesting or anything. So in order to do that, we're gonna need to use this spread operator here on our language object here. And then we are gonna jump into this language object on one of these spots, so either en or ch hans us. And for that, I'm gonna use selected language. So whatever language we are using currently. Save that. Here you're gonna get an error in TypeScript, and that's because selected language is just set to, it could be any string, and then JSON is expecting either the hello, it's expecting selected language to be one of these two keys here. To fix that error, you can do an as here and then just type them out, so as en or ch hans us, and that should fix the errors. Here we're just telling TypeScript that we're sure that this selected language is going to be one of these two, and that's going to remove the error. Okay, cool beans. I think we are looking pretty neat. Just one last thing, so in case you're wondering how I got this this language code here, all I did was just console log rn localize, and then you can do get locals. This is going to print all the different locals on the phone. Okay, that's pretty simple. Now our provider is basically set up here. Now I'm going to just create a one-liner here, basically a function that's going to allow us to grab our translations in all of our different components. So that looks like this: use translation, and here I can define a function, and inside my function, I'm going to do use context and then point at my context, which is language context. So the one we defined up here. Okay, we're exporting these two things, looking good. Now I kind of want to add this language context to my app. So currently I'm just using the boilerplate here from the React Native init CLI. So how can I add this language context provider to this app? So there's one way I could do it, and that is just add it directly here, but then I wouldn't be able to use my use translation inside this file, because I will have the provider in one file together with my use context, and that doesn't work. So I need to kind of go one level above to utilize this hook down here. Okay, so what I can do is, instead of children here, I can put in my app. So import that app and then just put it here. Okay. Now what we need to do next is to go to index.json, and instead of app, we're just gonna put the language context provider here as the most outer layer. Make sense? And yeah, now we should basically be able to jump into our app.js or app.tsx even, and then let's try to grab a translation. So I'm gonna use translation here, and I'm gonna get some auto import going on. Click that, and you can see I started with some square brackets here. I'm expecting maybe to get some autocomplete here, but no autocomplete. And the reason for this is, inside my language context, I did not provide an interface here. You can also see I'm getting an error. So I can add an interface here in case I want some very cool autocomplete, and I really want that. So I'm just going to quickly add an interface, or a type even. So we call it language context type. And well, what do I have inside this JSON file? I just have a hello. That's the only thing I can translate so far. So I'm gonna add that here. So remember down here, we did use the spread operator here. So we had all our different keys in one level. So that's why we assign hello here as our type. So now let's add that to a context. So language context type. And yeah, that should be it. Now we need to pass in a default value, because now we define that type. And I'm just going to put an empty object in here, and then just use the as here to yeah, basically avoid that error. I don't want to put a null value here, because then I'm going to get a bunch of question marks everywhere, because what if the language context is null? But in this app it won't be null, so that's why I'm doing this. I'm telling TypeScript that I know what I'm doing, so don't worry about it. Okay, cool. If you jump back to app.tsx now, I should be able to control space, and I'll get that sweet autocomplete here. So now I can try to output some text. So if you jump down here, so instead of step 1, let's try to output hello. Oh, it says hello. That's good. If I go in here and change it up, it's updating. That's working. Now let's try to close this app and jump into the settings. Now let's go into general, I think. General, yeah, and then language. And let me choose the iPhone language here to Chinese. Chinese, okay, adding that. Now the phone will restart real quick. And let's try to open up the app again. And there you go, guys. There is the Chinese translation. So basically what happened is this use effect ran. It found the best available language. We told we told this function that we have en and we have Chinese available, and it picked up on the fact that we are currently have the app in Chinese, so it picked that language, and now we are loading up this file. Okay, hope this was useful in any way, and I'll see you in the next one.